The scariest ocean mystery isn't the loudest sound ever recorded. It's the one that refused to stop. Since 1991, something in the South Pacific has been producing the same strange signal, weaker every year, but still alive enough to be heard. Somewhere in the South Pacific, there is a sound that has never fully stopped. Not once. Not for a single year since scientists first caught it on tape in August of 1991. It still shows up in the data today, fainter than it used to be, but never silent for long. Researchers gave it a name that almost undersells how strange it is. They called it Upsweep. Before you keep watching, sit with this for a second. 34 years. 34 years of the same signal returning, recorded by some of the most sensitive underwater microphones the US government has ever built. Most ocean mysteries happen once. A single recording, a single event, then silence. This one kept coming back, year after year, season after season. And even now, slowly fading, it still hasn't gone away completely. That single fact is what makes Upsweep one of the strangest entries in NOAA's entire acoustic archive. A mystery that happens once can be an accident. A mystery that repeats for over 3 decades is something else. To understand Upsweep, you need to understand the system that caught it. During the Cold War, the United States Navy built a network of underwater microphones called SOSUS, the Sound Surveillance System. Its job had nothing to do with science. It was built to track Soviet submarines, listening for the faint mechanical hum of enemy vessels crossing the deep ocean. These hydrophones were sensitive enough to catch a submarine's engine from hundreds of miles away. When the Cold War wound down, the Navy handed parts of this network to NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, for scientific research. And almost immediately, researchers realized what they had. A microphone network stretching across enormous sections of ocean. Sensitive enough to hear whale calls from thousands of miles away. Sensitive enough to hear the ocean in a way no one ever had before. They expected whale song. They expected ship traffic, storms, the occasional underwater landslide. What they got, starting in August of 1991, was something that fit none of those categories. The Pacific Marine Environmental Laboratory began recording with SOSUS that month. The new system immediately picked up a long train of narrow band sounds, each one rising steadily in pitch, each one lasting just a few seconds, repeating again and again in a pattern nobody had catalogued before. The first guess was biology, maybe a whale. Fin whales produce low-frequency calls that can travel enormous distances. For a while, researchers wondered if Upsweep was simply a fin whale signal nobody had documented at this scale. By 1996, that theory was dropped. The tone didn't have enough variation. Whale calls shift and bend in ways that reflect a living animal producing sound through soft tissue. Upsweep didn't bend like that. It repeated with a structure too rigid, too mechanical, too consistent to match anything biological in the existing record. So if it wasn't a whale and it wasn't a ship, what was it? Researchers triangulated the source using the spread of hydrophones across the array. They narrowed it down to a remote stretch of the South Pacific, roughly 54 degrees south, 140 degrees west. A point sitting between New Zealand and South America, about 2,500 miles west of the continent's southern tip. It's one of the loneliest patches of ocean on the planet. Far from shipping lanes, far from research stations, far from almost any sustained human presence. NOAA's working theory points to underwater volcanic and seismic activity in that region. The area sits near what scientists call inferred volcanic seismicity, a zone where magma and tectonic stress are believed to interact beneath the seafloor. On paper, that sounds like a clean answer. Volcanic rock, hot water, pressure release, mystery solved. But NOAA's own language tells a more careful story. Their official position describes the origin as unresolved, not confirmed, not observed, unresolved. Decades of recordings, and still nobody has visually or geologically verified exactly what's producing this exact signature at that exact spot. That distinction matters. There's a real difference between scientists saying we know what this is and scientists saying this is our best working theory based on the pattern we keep seeing. Upsweep sits firmly in the second category. The deeper you look, the stranger the seasonal behavior gets. If this were a purely geological event tied to volcanic activity, you'd expect something closer to random. The way earthquakes don't follow a calendar, the way volcanic tremors don't politely wait for spring. But Upsweep doesn't behave that way. The sound consistently peaks in spring and autumn. Researchers have confirmed this pattern for years. Their own published material admits something almost nobody expects from a scientific institution. It is unclear, NOAA states, whether the seasonal pattern comes from changes in the source itself, or from seasonal shifts in how sound travels through the water around it. In other words, even the timing of the sound hasn't been fully explained either. Drop a comment with the word upsweep right now if that detail gives you the same chill it gave me. I want to know how many of you are catching exactly how strange that admission really is. Here's something else that sets Upsweep apart from almost every other entry in the Unexplained Sounds archive. The signal has actually been weakening. NOAA's own monitoring data shows the overall source level has been declining since 1991, gradually, year over year. And yet, more than 3 decades later, it is still detectable on the network's hydrophone arrays right now. Think about what that actually tells you. This isn't a sound getting louder, building towards something. It's the opposite. It's a signal slowly losing strength and still refusing to disappear completely. Whatever is producing it has been weakening for over 30 years and still hasn't run out. That's not the pattern of a single dramatic event finally fading into silence. That's the pattern of a process, something ongoing, something with enough underlying scale that even 3 decades of decline haven't been enough to end it. Compare this to the other mystery sounds people usually lump it in with. You've probably heard of the bloop, the massive 1997 recording that briefly suggested something impossibly large might be living in the deep ocean. Before researchers attributed it to a large ice quake, the sound of Antarctic ice fracturing apart. The bloop happened. It was recorded, analyzed, and explained, and then it was over. Same with Julia, recorded in March of 1999, lasting under 3 minutes. Also linked to a large iceberg running aground off Antarctica. A single contained event, captured once, filed away. Same with Slow Down, same with Train, same with nearly every other anomalous signal in NOAA's catalog. They are moments. Upsweep refuses to be a moment. It is closer to a process, a signal the ocean keeps producing. Fainter now than it used to be, but still present, still active. Still showing up on the same instruments that first caught it back in 1991. While you were possibly not even born yet, or barely old enough to remember anything at all. Here's something that should genuinely sit with you for a moment. The region where Upsweep originates is one of the least explored stretches of ocean on Earth. We are talking about open water near the boundary of the Antarctic convergence. Cold, remote, expensive, and dangerous to operate research vessels in for any extended period. As a result, it has never received the kind of sustained, detailed mapping that more accessible coastal regions get. We've landed rovers on Mars. We've photographed Pluto from billions of miles away. And there's a stretch of our own planet's ocean floor that has still never been visually confirmed at its actual source. NOAA's hydrophone network is still active right now today, listening to the same patch of remote Pacific water. The signal hasn't been resolved by better technology. It hasn't been quietly solved and forgotten. According to NOAA's own current published data, upsweep can still be detected on the network as of now. Fainter but present, an open question sitting in a public scientific archive that almost nobody outside a small group of researchers ever actually reads. So what does all of this actually mean? It doesn't mean there's a creature down there. It doesn't mean something is deliberately calling out from beneath thousands of feet of water. The far more likely explanation remains geological, tied to volcanic or seismic activity in one of the most remote corners of the Pacific. But likely is not the same as proven. The fact that, after 34 years of continuous monitoring with some of the most advanced acoustic technology available, scientists still describe the source as unresolved says something important about how much we genuinely understand about our own ocean floor. We like to imagine the era of true unknowns is behind us, a relic of old expeditions and grainy black and white photographs. Upsweep is proof that's not true. It is a live, ongoing signal, slowly weakening but still recorded today, in real time by modern instruments, about a place we have still never actually seen. If this kind of deep ocean mystery is exactly the rabbit hole you come here for, subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're going further into NOAA's acoustic archive next, into the sounds that were recorded once, quietly investigated, and never fully explained to the public. The ocean has been making this particular sound since before most of you were old enough to remember anything. The question now is whether anyone is finally going to go looking for what's actually making it.